You're listening to the Journey Podcast. Sometimes to reconnect, you need to disconnect. And what better way than to go back to nature? Find out more about nature-based coaching in today's episode. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. Today marks Stress Awareness Day and the beginning of International Stress Awareness Week. For this special bonus episode, I spoke with an incredible nature-based insight coach. Sometimes to reconnect, you need to disconnect. And what better way than to go back to nature? Spending time outdoors, breathing in the fresh air, and taking in the sights and sounds is an amazing way to reset and rejuvenate. The benefits of forest bathing, for example, have been well documented, and spending time in nature can positively impact your mental and physical well-being. Something about that connection to nature helps our bodies and minds heal in a very unique way. And especially to reduce stress and anxiety, even just a short walk in a nearby forest or park can help. Heather Webster is a nature-based insight coach, health coach, educator, and mindful outdoor guide. She supports women to live a fulfilling, healthy, radiant life that aligns with their purpose and is filled with abundance. Heather uses a holistic journey approach to look at the individual as a whole so women can find radical self-love, self-confidence, and a stronger connection to their spirit and self to reach their wildest dreams and find joy in the everyday. Heather spent much of her childhood focused on finding joy outdoors, climbing trees, and playing with the neighbors, but also secretly never feeling good enough and always obsessed with being overweight and insecure. As she grew older, she started participating in activities that others liked, needing to be accepted. Heather found herself continuing to do as others expected throughout her 20s, giving up things she enjoyed to do what others liked instead. Slowly losing herself as time went on and continuing on the path expected of her, things changed after her divorce and finishing her master's degree in nutrition. The next phase of her life consisted of finding her authentic self. She explored more classes, moved an extensive amount of times, and did a lot of internal work, finally finding the joy she had lost. This joy and discovery has led her to much better health and a deep intuition. Heather wants to support women who feel as she did, and help them heal in a much faster time, leading to a life they love and allowing them to have radical self-love. Here is my interview with Heather Webster. Hi, Heather. It's so great to have you on the podcast. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because using nature for holistic healing is such an interesting space. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Petra. It's so wonderful to be here, and I feel blessed to be able to share this amazing insight with you and all your listeners.
Yes, thank you so much. We haven't talked about any nature-based practices or healing on the podcast yet, so this is going to be a really interesting episode. So to kick us off, can you share a little bit about yourself and how you got into nature-based healing?
Sure. It's actually very interesting when I look back on it because I never realized that I was using nature for healing even at a very young age. Your listeners might even resonate with this a little bit, that sometimes when things were tough when I was young, I even went outside as a way to, in my head, I was escaping, but realizing that now when I look back, I was using it as a way to connect into my intuition and figure out what's the right move to do next, even down to if people were arguing around me, or if I just had a bad day at work, I might just run outside and go climb a tree or go down to the pond that was in our backyard. fast forward a little bit into going through what society expects of us to do sometimes and go through those motions, go to college and meet the person that you're supposed to marry and get married and find a job and all of that. When I was in that hustle and bustle, I got a little bit more disconnected from nature. I was still finding time to go for walks, but I was living in a bigger city and I was kind of just going through the flow of what was supposed to be done. And I say supposed to in quotes as a way to say that's what society shares that we should do. And then it was probably around the time that I was getting ready to go into grad school. And I also got into a point where I started to hang out with a great group of friends that love being outside. And we started running and then we started hiking a little bit and snowshoeing and biking. So we were getting outside and I started to realize the relationship I was in was not what I needed for myself. And we weren't in a great spot. And through that time outdoors, I started to see, okay, this is what is helping me reconnect to what I need. But still in that moment, I was very wrapped up into grad school and going through a divorce and trying to figure that out. And through my experiences in life, kind of fast forward a little bit, I had gotten divorced. I had foster children that I had decided I was going to foster, but I wasn't going to adopt. But even that loss when they left my home to go to another one felt like a failure. And I started to get into a moment of what I wasn't diagnosed, but what I can only see as like a depression. And I didn't really want to go out and do anything. I really just had no energy. I would have to stop even when I was driving home because I was so exhausted. And I had become so disconnected from myself. And that's really when this journey started for me of getting back outside for the intention of healing, for the intention of finding out who I am, who I want to be in this world, what my purpose is. And now I am, after doing all that work and becoming a mindful outdoor guide and going back to school for nutrition and really looking at how does nutrition fit into nature-based work and looking at it as a holistic way. Through that, I realized what I'm supposed to be. And now I am a nature-based insight coach, sharing all this wisdom about getting outdoors and healing the body through your senses, through tapping into your intuition and your insight. And I get to now travel full time in my truck, traveling the country, sharing this message.
Wow, that sounds amazing. Traveling full time and connecting with nature. What a wonderful way to incorporate that into your own healing journey. I love that. And maybe there are some listeners that live in a city or might not have access sort of to the great outdoors with good hiking trails or even woods or anything they could go to. So, what could it look like for someone who wants to incorporate nature based practices into their healing journey, but they're not really somewhere where they can fully take advantage of the outdoors? Are there any tips?
Oh, Petra, I love this question. It is such a powerful thing to look at because I hear from clients all the time that I live in a city. I can't get to the great outdoors. I can't hike in the mountains or go kayaking on a lake. And there is so much you can do within a city that is right at your fingertips. So even if you don't have 2 hours to go drive to a park that's a little further out, or maybe you don't have access to a car. I know when I lived in Boston, I didn't have a car. It was the subway. And there are so many things you can do right within if you're in an apartment or if you have a park nearby. So some suggestions are no matter where you are in a city, you can find something that is what I call something from the more than human world. So you might walk downstairs and there's a tree on the sidewalk as you're walking to the subway. You might see multiple trees, and it's just experiencing that as you're walking by. Maybe you touch the tree. Maybe you see some flowers that you stop to smell. Maybe you walk to the local park. The other thing is bringing nature into your own home. It's so powerful. There's so much research to share how great it is to have plants within your home. Not only is it great for the air and the environment itself, but it also increases your own energy. It decreases cortisol. Just having that nature around you, which then decreases the stress. So you can bring plants in. One of the things I've been sharing with clients is you can bring in the sounds of nature. So maybe you listen to a YouTube video that has the different sounds of nature on it, such as a waterfall or bird calls. It's about thinking about what are your senses and what can you bring in that would kind of capture that sense, such as lighting a candle to have that, like being able to see fire and experiencing flowers. I know a lot of people that buy themselves flowers at the grocery store. So there's many different ways you can incorporate it, even if you're in a city. And there's many ways to incorporate it if you're running and you're really busy. So a lot of times it's that time aspect. You can still bring it in. I love doing rituals where I think about the four elements: earth, wind, fire, and water. And I try to bring those elements into my home no matter where I am. So if I'm in a city, how can I bring those elements in as well? And just really being able to tap into it. So it really doesn't matter where you live, you can still experience nature and get the benefits that nature provides.
I love that. Those are some great tips. And I think there was a study, this may have been some time ago, where they tested someone watching, I believe it was a walk through a forest on their computer screen or their TV screen. And even through watching the video, they noticed that some good things happened for the person. So their blood pressure lowered, they became calmer. And so even watching nature videos on your computer screen or on your TV could be another way that you can do that if you're really busy or you're stuck inside an apartment. So the visualizations for your brain are really, they work really well too, even if
Right.
you're not outside.
If any of your listeners are people that love to do meditation, which I would suggest, meditation can be so powerful, you can do the visualization that way as well. Visualizing yourself walking through a forest or walking through a meadow or laying down on grass and staring up at the clouds and watching those float by.
Yeah, exactly. And so you mentioned a bit about finding your connection in nature. And I think that is one of the things that happens very often when we have mental health struggles is that we lose our self connection. We lose the connection to our identity and we lose the connection to ourselves. And so, how can we recover or how can we really feel that self connection through the use of nature based practices?
Yes, for sure. I actually, speaking of authenticity, I know we had talked about that previously last week. I was feeling so disconnected, and I was talking on my Facebook group with others, and they were feeling that disconnect as well. And I think the weather where I am was very hot and humid, and people were kind of staying inside a lot during that time. And when I started to look back at my week, I realized that disconnect came from the lack of me getting outside and spending more time in air conditioning and on my computer. And it was just a really powerful aha moment of how powerful it can be when you take yourself out of what our body is made to do and be, and the environment we are made to be in. I think some of the things you can do to help with that reconnection is by getting outside and doing some barefoot walking. And this doesn't have to be a long period of time. You can get outside for just a short time and take off your shoes and walk in some grass. And again, it goes back to using those senses. Like, what can you feel? What can you smell? What can you taste? You can even go outside and open your mouth. And if you let the air come in and breathe in through your mouth, you can taste the air, which is so powerful. And a lot of that disconnect comes from that rushing that we're doing every day. And if you can take time to walk outside with the intention of doing it in a quiet, slow way, not to rush to the subway or rush to the top of the mountain or rush to get to that pond that you want to go to or rush to work. But if you take the time maybe it means that you have to leave for work 10 minutes earlier. And as you're walking or driving, you're experiencing what's happening around you in a more meaningful way. This interesting study I read the other day was really neat because I've always talked about how this self-connection happens by decreasing some of the stress that we're feeling every day. And you can't really get self-connected if you're living in a state of stress all the time. I knew nature-based practices decrease stress, and I also knew that nature-based practices increase relaxation, right? So those two things of like decreasing cortisol and increasing relaxation will then ultimately really bring down your stress level. But I didn't realize that what it does is it brings down cortisol by like 12% and brings up relaxation by 55%. So it almost is like you're decreasing stress by 67% around, right? Because some of that cortisol and relaxation will balance each other out. But how powerful is that if you really want to become truly connected to yourself? And sometimes I get the question of like, why do we have to be so connected to ourselves? Why is it all about? Because some feel that that's very ego driven.
Mm-hmm.
But really, true self connection is taking the ego out of it and becoming fully self connected with yourself. What that does is help you be more connected to everybody and everything around you, increasing your relationships,
Mm-hmm.
increasing your love of life, finding your purpose, finding joy and happiness, really bringing abundance to everything you do.
Wow. Oh, that's really great. I like that. And I do feel that connecting to ourselves also helps us align better within our own authenticity and really live, who we are meant to be. And that makes us happy as well when we're aligned. So it's a really important part that you can achieve that through spending time in nature and through nature based practices. Now, you touched a little bit on some of the benefits of being in nature, and one being reduction of stress and another being relaxation. Are there any other benefits that we can talk about that nature based practices and being in nature can have for people?
Sure. It's funny because the more I research it, the more I like every single time I research it more, I get more and more benefits. So
That's great.
it's kind of funny because now researchers are finally looking at this in a very serious way. There are more doctors. There's even doctors now, thankfully, in the United States that are prescribing going out to outdoors. It
Wow.
used to be something that you saw in Europe a little bit and in Japan a lot because that's where a lot of the research is happening.
Hmm.
And so I'll start with talking about Shinrin Yoku, which is the Japanese art of forest bathing. It actually stands for forest bath. And what this is getting outside again with that intention of being out in nature, not rushing to the summit, not having this goal of something you have to reach, but just being surrounded by the trees or plants around you and just walking very peacefully in nature. And what they ultimately started because they saw such a huge level of stress within their society in Japan, but now they're starting to see as research is looking at it across the board, they're looking at decreases in heart rate, decreases in blood pressure. They're even finding that there's less preterm birth in people that are getting outdoors more. They're seeing a decrease in type 2 diabetes, respiratory issues such as asthma. They're seeing for like stress and mental illness, they're seeing associations with getting outdoors and neurological related issues and things that are going on. They're seeing anxiety decrease. And they're also seeing when people are reporting their health, when they're getting outdoors more, they're seeing that their self-reporting is increased in better ways, which is phenomenal that people are able to actually feel the association with nature.
Hmm. So that touches on a lot of different points: physical, mental, emotional, really benefits all across the board.
It does. And I think the most powerful, like for me, it's so powerful to see, like, oh, yes, all these physiological things that it's great for. For me, I know a lot of that physiological pieces around respiratory and heart and all of those also have to do, they're so closely related to the neurological and mental pieces, right? We see that when we're talking to people, that if you have this positive attitude, sometimes that helps your well-being as a whole. But I think some of the most powerful studies are looking at creativity, the way people are working as a team, the increase in energy, the increase in mood, and increase in problem solving skills. They're starting to see so much correlation between getting outdoors and how that's supporting brain health in terms of just how people are coming into the day every day and their interactions with others and their self-worth, which
Wow.
is so powerful.
Yeah, exactly. So get outside, people. Go and
Right?
find something fun to do. Climb a mountain, walk in the park, watch forest bath video on your computer screen, but do something to bring nature into your lives because that could really help with your healing journey. Ah, I love that. Wow. I wonder if there's going to be some people running out now and buying those pine air fresheners to
Right?
hang them in their apartment to bring the nature scent inside.
Right? Some of the times what I do, especially in the winter or once it's getting to, I love doing winter solstice as well. So I do that with like an online winter solstice for my followers. And I always bring pine boughs in because that smell is so powerful. So if you do bring in scents, really kind of one of the things I would urge you to do if you are able to is to go out and find really wholesome products,
Mm.
things that you know that they're essences that are taken from a source that you can trust, that are going to be good for you to breathe in.
Yeah, not the chemical pieces, but
Yes.
the actual natural scents.
Yeah.
Mhm,
Yep. Like using essential oils that come from a good source.
mhm. Yeah, that's great, and that's definitely I think you can order a lot of good quality essential oils online, for example, or if you have a forest nearby and you're allowed to pick some branches or flowers or anything that you could bring the natural scents into your home, that would be great too.
Yes, for
Um,
sure.
Mhm. Now, let's talk a little bit about your programs and services so listeners can get a feel for how they could connect with you in their healing journey and what that would look like if they wanted to work with you.
Sure. So I have worked with a variety of clients from helping people depending on what their goals are. I currently work with some clients that their biggest goal is coming up with a mindset that is going to support them in moving forward, whether it be even something around weight loss or increasing energy. I have had some clients that one phenomenal client I worked with recently, she came to me because she was trying to figure out what would be the best route for her in a relationship because she was trying to figure out if it was the right relationship with her and what steps to take. And I supported her around increasing her intuition and getting outdoors and doing mindful outdoor walks, which I do with some of the clients I work with, or I will do recordings for them. Or sometimes we do it live where I'm guiding you through the computer and they have a headset that just they have headphones on. And this client not only decided to end that relationship, she is amazingly healed in ways that I am just shocked how quickly she was able to go through this process in terms of ending that relationship, really figuring out what she wants to do next. And now she's getting ready for this huge adventure that she's always wanted to do. And she went back to school to help with that adventure. So it's amazing to see how it all has broken out. So each client I work with is very individualized in terms of the program, but everything brings nature in. For the ones that are working on weight loss, we do talk a lot because I do have a nutrition background. And so we do talk about what does nature-based eating look like and how you can use nature-based practices of getting outdoors and getting to really reconnect with yourself to know why you might be working through those problems around eating. I worked with one woman who she wanted to leave her current job and start looking into becoming a postpartum doula. And now she is a full-time postpartum doula, loving life. She is happier than I've ever seen her. And it's just phenomenal to see. So each client I work with is a little bit different in terms of the approach, but everything that we do is nature-based. I do a lot around using insight. I do, for some of my clients, if that is the way they want to go, I do use oracle card readings as well as a way to tap in, because sometimes you need an additional tool that helps you figure out what is it that you want to do. And oracle cards are a great tool for that purpose to help guide as well.
Wow. And I love how you're also bringing technology into your offerings and actually guiding people on the internet, with a headset outside. That's fantastic. So that allows a lot more people all over the world to connect with you because they don't have to be there with you in person. So that's great.
Yes. And it's great because it can be done anywhere. And that's what I really want clients and listeners to know, that nature-based practices can be done anywhere. Their access does lead to some things you have to work around. But the cool thing is when you get outside, creativity increases. So it helps come up with new solutions, new ideas, things you can do that are a little more creative. And like you said, bringing in technology into it and thinking about, what do you have at your kind of disposal? What are those tools and resources you have because you live in a city? And instead of looking at it as a detriment, look at it as a possibility.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I love that. And we will be linking to all of Heather's offerings in the show notes as well. So be sure you take a look and you can see the different ways that you can connect with her. And if you want to incorporate nature-based practices into your healing journey, you can link up with Heather directly. Well, this has been another incredible episode, and I hope our listeners have enjoyed the journey into nature-based practices as much as I have. I'm going to put a screensaver on now with the nature images to help immerse myself in that. And it has been amazing chatting with you on the podcast, Heather. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a blessing for me, and I feel so honored to be on your podcast and talk with you.
Thank you, Heather, and take care.
You too.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please subscribe, share on social media, and leave us a review. And be sure to get your copy of our brand new ebook called Break Free. Sending you love and courage, and see you next week. Until then, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and the Journey blog.